My last video is about current trends in Italy, the Netherlands, Sweden, and Finland. In this video, I'm going to talk more about Sweden and Finland and try to clear a few things up. I'm going to discuss a little bit about why Finland just got new ministers. But first I want to talk about Sweden and the rise of the Swedish Democrats. Now, a big question people have is this really an extreme far-right party? The answer is no. The fake news corporate media in Sweden falsely brands them an extreme far-right party. The fake news corporate media in the United States copies and pastes this and pushes the same falsehood over here. The Washington Post recently had an article declaring the Swedish Democrats to be an example of an extreme far-right party in Europe. The Swedish parliament has no far-right parties. It doesn't even have right-wing parties. It barely has anything that could be called center-right. They have far left, less left, and kind of moderate. When we're talking about Swedish voters going to the right, we're talking about them leaving the far left and going more towards the middle. The Swedish Democrats are a textbook moderate party. They simply say they want to cut immigration levels. That's what makes them different from the other moderate parties. But you have to consider how left-wing Sweden is. Years ago when I was in college, a guy from Sweden told me that a bunch of taxi drivers had placed Swedish flag stickers on their taxi cabs for National Day, and they were attacked and demonized as radicals in the media. And even just recently I saw a YouTube video where a well-known Swedish guitar player holds up a guitar pedal with a Swedish flag on it and then immediately gets defensive and makes like he has to explain himself for displaying his own national flag.
I will. It's a German, by the way, and he made a Swedish-looking pedal. And don't call me a racist for showing this. It's just a pedal. Take it easy. All you haters out there, chill. It's okay. It's a Swedish flag. It's okay.
So Sweden, very left-wing. There is no radical right-wing parties. Until recently, you had two big alliances of parties in Sweden. The Red-Green Alliance, which was the Social Democrats, the Green Party, and the former Communist Party. Then you had a group of four moderate parties that was called the Alliance. The Center Party, the Liberal Party, the Moderate Party, and the Christian Democrats. The Swedish Democrats were not part of the alliance because the media had declared them untouchable and said anyone who has anything to do with the Swedish Democrats, we will attack and demonize you just as hard as we attack and demonize the Swedish Democrats themselves. Well, in the 2018 election, the Swedish Democrats got 28%. This was down. They had normally been getting about a third of the vote. The alliance combined got 39.5%. The Swedish Democrats, who had been steadily rising for years and years, got 17.5%. And so the alliance could have told the media to kiss off and formed a government with the Swedish Democrats. Instead, the Center Party and the Liberal Party basically broke up the alliance and sided with the far left. And so the far left was put back in power with the help of the allegedly centrist center and liberal parties, which now the center and the liberal parties have really made it known that they are part of the left. They can basically be called the center left, and then the moderate party, Christian Democrats, and the Swedish Democrats are the middle. Well, until recently, the leaders of the moderate party were still virtue signaling to the media and saying that they would never form a coalition with the Swedish Democrats. However, later in 2018, they had local elections, and in half a dozen towns across two counties, the moderate party and the Swedish Democrats formed municipal coalitions. This is in the two southernmost counties in Sweden. Now, some people have pointed out that this is an area that historically was inhabited by ethnic Danes, although I think the big key here is that these towns are in close proximity to Malmo. Well, the media has been attacking and demonizing some of these town governments, but they're proving to be very popular. And the Swedish Democrats have continued to rise in the poll for months now, and right now they are competing with the Social Democrats for first place. Both the Swedish Democrats and the Social Democrats are now polling 24 to 26% each. In the last 8 major polls, the Swedish Democrats came in first place in 4 of them and tied in 1 of them. The next largest party is the Moderate Party with 17 to 18%. All the other parties are below 10%. So you basically have 3 main parties and a whole bunch of small parties. Well, the old 4-party alliance is broken. The leader of the Christian Democrats, Ebba Busch Thor, now she's demonized in the media as a right-wing extremist. She's a moderate. I think she said that she was against late-term abortion. So that made her a radical extremist in the eyes of the Swedish media. Well, she met with Jimmy Åkesson, the leader of the Swedish Democrats, a while back, and now just recently Ulf Kristersson, and I'm sure I butchered that, finally met with the leader of the Swedish Democrats. This is a guy who for years swore he would never have any dealings with the Swedish Democrats whatsoever. He met with Jimmy Åkesson and came out and is basically saying he's willing to cooperate with him now. And so the writing is on the wall. The next government of Sweden is probably going to be a coalition of the Moderate Party, the Christian Democrats, and the Swedish Democrats. And then perhaps we will see the rise of an actual hardline conservative group. There is a group called Alternative for Sweden, which is actually being run by people who were kicked out of the Swedish Democrats for being too conservative. Some of them are even former members of the Swedish parliament who were elected on the Swedish Democrat ticket. Well, right now, they only get like 1% in the polls. But in the future, if the Swedish Democrats gain power, then that would present an opportunity for a stronger conservative party to begin growing, to put pressure on the coalition in order to try to steer them further to the right. I do believe that there is a large number of Swedes who have been hoping and praying for years for a backlash and for Sweden to swing to the right. All right, on to Finland. So right now the US media is gloating about how Finland just got some new ministers who are young women under the age of 35. This is supposed to be a giant leap for womankind, an inspiration to everyone, and a great victory for the Finnish left. A lot of people are left wondering what exactly happened. Was there another election? Is this a new government? Was there a coup? It's the same government. It's the exact same government. They're playing musical chairs. The current government has been in power 6 months, and after only 6 months, it's already very fragile, scandal-ridden, very unpopular. The ministers were fighting with each other and blaming each other, and after only 6 months, they're already trying to rebrand. So let me give you a little bit of history. In 2015, Finland had a general election, and the Center Party, the center-right National Coalition Party, and the conservative Finns Party formed a ruling coalition. 2 years later, they kicked the Finns Party out. There's a big shakeup. There's a splinter group. I talked about that in my last video. Now, flash forward to earlier this year, Finland had an election, the Center Party, the National Coalition Party, and the Finns Party collectively won over 50% of the seats. But the Center Party and the National Coalition Party both virtue signal to the media about how never again would they deal with the evil, untouchable Finns Party. The obvious next choice was for the Center Party to form a coalition with the National Coalition Party and the Social Democrats. And then that would have been billed as a grand coalition or a, big tent moderate coalition. Instead, the Center Party went way to the left and formed a coalition with the Social Democrats, the Green Party, and the former Communist Party of Finland. That coalition took power last June, and as I said, it's already very fragile, very unpopular, and scandal, infighting, etc. The big scandal that I've seen is the postal strike. So apparently the new government reduced benefits for postal workers and they went on strike. And then there's a big scandal and the ministers were blaming each other. One minister claimed responsibility and resigned to try to protect the prime minister, but eventually they decided the prime minister had to go, but he's just being replaced by a different person from the same party. So all these new ministers are from the same party. 4 of them are women under the age of 35, including the new prime minister. And we're supposed to believe that this is a great advancement for all of humanity because they are both young and female. And we're not supposed to look at their policies or anything else. We're supposed to celebrate the fact that they're young and female. Now, this is a quote from Alexander Stubbs. He's one of the leaders of the center-right National Coalition Party. He's a former prime minister of Finland. This is the whiny, groveling piece he posted on Twitter. My party is not in government, but I rejoice that the leader of the 5 parties in government are female. Shows that Finland is a modern and progressive country. The majority of my government was also female. One day, gender will not matter in government. Meanwhile, pioneers. Yeah, pioneers of Lenin, maybe. So, this guy, who's supposed to be the leader of a center-right party, is praising these left-wing parties simply because they're putting up people who are young and female. Now, one of the people he's praising as a pioneer is the leader of the former Communist Party of Finland. It is now called the Left Alliance. That's their rebrand. It's one of many countries in Europe where near the fall of the Soviet Union, all the communist parties rebranded. And so Left Alliance, the former Communist Party, the leader is a young woman in her early 30s. They made her Minister of Education. So that's one of the people he's praising and calling a pioneer. Meanwhile, as I said in my previous video, the Finns Party has been rising in the polls for months now. They are now the most popular party in Finland by a large margin. And I don't think this stunt of having a bunch of women in their early 30s running the country is going to turn the tide back for the left. All right, thanks for watching this video. Click the like button and post a comment below and tell me what you think about this. And please consider making a donation to this YouTube channel, as YouTube has mass demonetized all my videos. And please support my sponsor, Patriotic Flags, the online flag store, patriotic-flags.com. Get yourself some flags as Christmas presents. And click the subscribe button. New video every few days.